Alright, here we are back again, and today we are talking about the Formosan Black Bear. Now, before I get too far into it, let's talk about what we're doing with the exhibit. I have based this exhibit on some pictures I've seen of the mountains of Taiwan, which is where they reside, and I feel that I've got it down pretty good. The idea is to be a mountainous, deciduous rainforest. Not quite tropical, because that's not quite where they live, but definitely densely packed. And we'll discuss a little bit as we go on. But let's get into the animal, shall we? The Formosan black bear, also known as the Taiwanese black bear or the white-throated bear, is native to, you guessed it, Taiwan. Now, the scientific name is Ursus tibetanus formosanus, which literally just means bear, Tibet, Formosa. Let's answer the obvious, shall we? Why is it called the Formosan black bear? Well, because its native home, the island nation of Taiwan, used to be called Formosa, which we'll be getting into very soon in the history segment. Now, it is the largest land animal of Taiwan, ranging anywhere from 130 to 440 pounds, which makes it ever so slightly smaller than the American black bear, for all of you who need a reference. But the Formosan black bear is actually a subspecies of the Asiatic black bear, which I'm sure is more common to some of you, but I'll be honest, I forgot it existed. Now, to the history. The first true bear that we know of was known as Uravus elemensis, which evolved in southern Europe roughly 16.5 to 23 million years ago. And when I say southern Europe, I mean Spain, Italy, the Balkans, places like that, which were at the time subtropic. Now, the Asiatic black bear had branched off roughly 3 million years ago in modern-day Moldova. I know, odd place to find it, but you know what? Let's get some Moldova representation out here, alright? No one talks about them. Well, let's talk about Transnistria, but a pseudo-communist Russian puppet isn't exactly the reason you want to be noted. But let's move on, just like the Asiatic black bear did. Moving east throughout the world, now their most western expanses being Afghanistan. Yeah, I didn't realize there were black bears in Afghanistan, but... And as far east as Japan and, obviously, Taiwan. Now, you may ask yourself, where is that large automobile? I mean, how did the largest animal in Taiwan get there when it's an island? Well, at the time, it wasn't an island. Neither was Japan. As a matter of fact, back when they arrived there roughly 10,000 years ago, the global water levels had been significantly lower, to the point where you could just walk from China to Taiwan, which I'm sure modern Taiwan would be horrified and modern China would be very, very happy. But luckily we live in a world where a free Chinese-speaking population can exist. R.I.P. Hong Kong. You know what? I'm making enemies with China on this video, and I'm just gonna have to accept that fact, so I'm going all in. Now, there are some notable differences between your average Asiatic black bear and the Formosan black bear. One of those things being the fact that the average Asiatic black bear will have large amounts of fur around its neck, most likely to defend itself from things like tigers. Seeing how they were on an island without tigers, they really didn't need that extra tuft of fur to look larger, so they just ditched it. And they also have a longer muzzle, somewhat resembling that of a canine more than an urson. But let's be very clear here. It is still very much a bear. This is not a panda situation where you can go, yeah, it's not quite the same. This is still a 400-pound block of beef that eats meat. And, not meat things. They're black bears. They're omnivorous. American black bears are considered the world's largest raccoon species over here, alright? I doubt they're much different over there. Now, back to the topic at hand. As I said, before the name we know as Taiwan, it was known as Formosa, which was a term that was given by the Portuguese in 1542, originally being Ilha Formosa, which means the beautiful island, which is very accurate. If you actually take a good look at the island of Taiwan, it is gorgeous. It is that beautiful blend of almost tropical but still deciduous, with plenty of high mountains to get cold environments and warm environments by the ocean. Just glazing Taiwan today. Now, it was then given its scientific name by Robert Swin... Can I say that name? Fuck it. Swinhoe. I'm putting it up how it's spelt for all you manual viewers. That's just his name. He was an English consul of Qin-era Taiwan in 1864. Now, what is a consul? Well, it's not just what you use to play video games on. Now, a consul is a representative of sorts from a nation to make sure that the local populace of that specific ethnicity is properly represented. For instance, when China was opened up in the 1800s, they would have missionaries, businessmen, political representatives, and so on and so forth that would go there and live in, at this point in time, China. So they would have some form of representative to make sure that their needs are properly met and they're not being discriminated against. Ironic for a colonial force, but I guess as us Americans are finally figuring out that no, you cannot just up and leave because you want to, the Taiwanese black bear got a scientific name. Well, good for them. A lot better than what we were dealing with. Now, what is the modern influence of the beautiful Formosan black bear? Well, I'm gonna be real, not a lot except for the military. It has been seen as a national symbol and identity of the island of Taiwan, representing their strength and freedom against a tyrannical group that really does not like the fact that they exist. Now, even though West Taiwan may really, really hate it, they really hate the fact that, well, the Taiwanese Air Force have these things called morale patches, as with most military forces. And what does theirs depict? Well, of course, it's just a Formosan black bear punching Winnie the Pooh right in the face. And that's not me taking shots, it's literally a picture of Winnie the Pooh, because, for those of you who may not be aware of geopolitical memery, Xi Jinping, the current leader of the Chinese Communist Party and leader of West Taiwan, often represented as Winnie the Pooh. Why? Well, fuck it, we've gone this far, let's talk about it, shall we? This whole story can be stemmed all the way back to this image of former President Barack Obama walking with Xi Jinping, where Obama appeared much like Tigger, and Xi Jinping looking like Winnie the Pooh. Now, they weren't the only people that were compared to, animals from the Thousand Acre Woods. Shinzo Abe was compared to Eeyore because he looked a bit dopey. But, you see, Xi Jinping had a big problem with this. That being the fact that, well, he wants to be very serious. He's a dictator after all, so being compared to Winnie the Pooh of all characters rubbed him the wrong way. And ever since 2017, it has been completely banned to use Winnie the Pooh in name, image, or likeness for any reason at all with anything associated with China. So, if you're mainland Chinese, hope you're enjoying that VPN, because I know damn well this ain't making it into your extension of YouTube. Not happening. Now, back to the animal at hand. In 2001, the Formosan Black Bear had been voted by the people of Taiwan to be the most representative form of wildlife on the island, which makes sense, seeing how they have limited options. Now, there is one other form of culture I have to go over, because even though I said it was mostly military, it isn't. Because there is one story by the local Rukai people of Taiwan have a story about the Formosan Black Bear and the Formosan Clouded Leopard. And the story goes somewhat like this. In the beginning, the two animals were actually a very pale white color, having no discernible marks and, quite honestly, pretty dull. The two animals eventually decide that they wished to paint one another, and they came to this agreement where they would paint one another in the midst of the forest after securing enough paint and tools. The Clouded Leopard was the first to be painted, and the meticulous and very astute Black Bear took great time and patience to create the beautiful Clouded Leopard's pattern, something that I personally think in reality is one of the most gorgeous coats any animal has. Well, it took hours, and the Black Bear was completely exhausted by the time he was done, and the Clouded Leopard was very thankful and very prideful of its coat. The Black Bear decides to take a nap as it is his turn to be painted. Well, fortunately, the leopard, wishing to be more outstanding in its appearance, decided that, I'm just going to be dishonest, unfaithful, and went over to the nearest bog, scooped up as much black mud as it possibly could, and just dumped it on the poor bear. The only part that was left untouched is that V shape from when it had its arms closed together. This infuriated the Black Bear, as it would with me too, because fuck you, man, I worked real hard on your coat and you dumped sludge on me, little prick. Get back here and get your ass whooping. And that's exactly what the Black Bear was thinking. However, the Clouded Leopard ran up a tree and negotiated with the Black Bear. Essentially, the offer was this. Listen, I understand you're pissed, but if you don't brutally and savagely maul me to death, I'll make sure that no matter what I kill, you will also be allowed to eat from it. I won't touch your stuff, but I will absolutely leave food for you if I'm ever successful. Deal? And begrudgingly, the Black Bear decided, yeah, that's good enough. And from that point on, in Rukai culture, it was stated that a Clouded Leopard will always leave a meal half-eaten so that it can be enjoyed by the Black Bear of the ground. Now, little did that Clouded Leopard know that its beautiful coat would actually lead to its mass extermination because the Formosan Clouded Leopard is extinct. And while the Formosan Black Bear is vulnerable, it is still not quite endangered, but it teeters on that line quite often. However, why is it vulnerable? Well, I hope you're ready to be grossed out, because this is where things get weird. You see, in East Asia, and this is going to be gross, there is a market known as Bile Farming, which is where they take something like an Asiatic black bear, sun bear, or Himalayan brown bear and extract bile, which is a substance that is formed in the gallbladder and liver, directly from a bear. Most of the time still living, just sedated. Now, why do they want bear bile? Well, that's quite simple, silly child. Because it's a quote-unquote miracle drug that cures everything from ED to acne to cancer. I am tired of these East Asian medicines. I say with the biggest quotes I could possibly manage. Because while, yes, it can be used to relieve you of gallstones, that's it. And there's like 50 different resources you could use rather than something from a bear. Now, most of these farms are in Vietnam and Laos. However, there have been ones in China, Taiwan, South Korea, a whole bunch of different locales. And first off, I mean, there's like, it has to be disgusting. Like, we have other resources. It's gross as fuck. Secondly, I feel like it is so much harder to get bile from an animal. Thirdly, I don't think unethical is like a strong enough word for this shit. And fourthly, there's no way it's safer to extract bile from a 300 or more, because they're using Himalayan brown bears too, pound animal that can rip you to sunder than just grinding up some fucking plants or some shit. Like, what is wrong with people? Why is this your choice? Anyway, it is extremely unethical, extremely frowned upon. Luckily, unless you're sorting out specifically bear bile, you're probably not going to have to worry yourself on avoiding it, at least in the West. But that is why a lot of these animals we're going to talk about, or a lot of the bears that we're going to talk about in this game that come from Asia, why they're vulnerable and or endangered. But with all that said and done, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed at least some of this video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Any interaction is good interaction. Even if you don't like it, feel free to comment, because I do want to make this better. If you think there's something I can do better, go right ahead and let me know. But until next time, go outside, touch grass, hug your loved ones, and bye-bye.